In 1983, a 15-year-old girl named Emanuela Orlandi disappeared on her return from a music lesson. Her family, who lived in Vatican City, received several anonymous communications over the following years claiming to know the girl's whereabouts. Several theories emerged that linked the disappearance with a terrorist cell, the Mafia, and even the Vatican City State. Emanuela's fate remains unknown to this day. It is one of the most famous and mysterious cases in all of Italian history. Emanuela Orlandi was born on January 14, 1968. She was the daughter of Ercole and Maria Orlandi, the fourth of 5 children. Her siblings were called Pietro, Natalina, Federica, and Maria Cristina. She resided in Vatican City due to her father's employment as a City Hall employee. Vatican City is a territory that, even though it is fully located within the nation-state of Italy, is considered a country. It's the smallest country in the world, having less than 1,000 citizens and being less than half a square kilometre in size. The Vatican is governed by the Pope, the head of the Catholic Church. Emanuela sang and played the piano, but she most loved to play the flute. She studied at the Santo Apollinario Music School located in the historic centre of Rome. However, on a Wednesday, June 22, 1983, a mysterious incident changed the lives of the Orlandi family forever. Emanuela was 15 years old and enjoying her summer vacation before starting her 3rd year at high school. She left home to go to her flute class as normal. She arrived at the school for class but later asked to be released 10 minutes early at 6:50 p.m. Just before 7 p.m, she called her house and spoke to her sister Federica. Emanuela said that on her way to class, she had met a guy who had offered her flyer delivery work that weekend at a fashion event. The payment was good, but she wanted to talk to their parents first. However, they weren't at home, and Federica said she thought it sounded weird and dangerous. Emanuela did not return home that night. The parents found Emanuela's delay in returning home to be very unusual. She didn't have any commitments that evening, and at around 9 p.m. they went to the police station to report her disappearance. At first, the police responded as always. It was necessary to wait 24 hours, because she could be with friends somewhere, or perhaps even on the run for some transgression. But the parents knew their daughter, and any such suggestion was out of the question. They knew something had happened. The next morning, the 23rd, they returned to the police station and said that their daughter still had not returned. Without waiting the full 24 hours, the police decided to launch a small investigation by talking to some people at her school. The only clue that suggested that everything would be fine was that some students had seen her get on a bus after class and that she had been talking to a passenger with red hair. Using the information Emanuela had given her sister, they retraced her route from home to school. The police showed her photo to people in the area, and a traffic officer stationed in front of the Italian Senate remembered seeing her talking to a man in a green BMW. The police decided to officially declare Emanuela Orlandi as missing. Posters were printed, and the family's home phone number was distributed everywhere. Several calls were made, but unfortunately some of them were prank calls. But a call made on the 25th by a man who said his name was Pierluigi caught their attention. He said that his girlfriend had seen a girl fitting Emanuela's description in Campo dei Fiori, a busy tourist centre with stalls and street musicians, 600 kilometres from the Vatican. Emanuela appeared to be one of the musicians and was selling Avon cosmetics. She went by the name Barbara. Days later, another call, this time from a man named Mario, told a similar story. He had seen a girl named Barbara playing the flute with another musician. Mario said that he had spoken to the girl. She told him that she had run away from home for a while to have her own space. She intended to return home soon, and that she was playing music on the streets to earn money to feed herself. However, her family knew that Emanuela was embarrassed to play in public. Her parents said that even during low-key performances she would get quite nervous. It is worth mentioning here that the police had never publicized information about what instrument she played. That was why these two sightings stood out from the others. The area was investigated, but no one was found there playing the flute. Nor did local traders remember anyone playing that instrument on the street in recent weeks. They began to suspect that these calls had been made by the people involved in her disappearance in order to mislead the police. It would lead them in the opposite direction to where she actually was. On July 3rd, Pope John Paul II made a public statement about Emanuela's disappearance, asking people to pray for the family and that anyone who knew anything should inform the police. In July, local investigations into the suspect car found a mechanic who reported that in June he had repaired a broken window on a green BMW. The police suspected that the window had been broken from the inside. The mechanic could not confirm this, as the car had been brought in without any shards of glass on the inside. Regardless of whether the glass was broken from the inside out or the outside in, there should have been some trace of glass there. It was clear that the car had been cleaned before the repair. The mechanic added that he had found no blood in the car or tears in the upholstery. He provided the police with the license plate, which was recorded on the duplicate copy of the receipt. Arriving at the registered address of the car, 2 kilometers from the Vatican, the police were met by an angry woman who refused to answer questions and demanded that they leave, as they did not have a search warrant. Upon returning to the police station, the 2 officers requested a warrant. However, that same week, they were removed from the case and 2 other police officers were appointed by the police chief to continue the investigation. In the following weeks, the family and the police received anonymous calls from a person whom they called the American because of his accent. He called 16 times. This man claimed that Emanuela had been kidnapped by a Turkish extremist group called the Grey Wolves. He said that the kidnapping was due to her family's connection with the Vatican. Emanuela was to be used as a bargaining chip in negotiating the release of Mehmet Ali Agha, a Turkish assassin affiliated who had been arrested after attempting to assassinate Pope John Paul II in 1981. He had been sentenced to life imprisonment. When questioned, he denied having any involvement with it. The American warned that he could prove that what he was saying was true through correspondence that they would receive in the following days. When the envelope arrived, it contained copies of the school rehearsal sheet music that Emanuela was carrying on the day of her disappearance. This brought hope to the family that Emanuela was still alive and that she might soon be released. However, that didn't happen. The American's last call was made on October 27th, and after that the investigation ground to a halt. There was nothing for the police to follow up on, track, or investigate. The population was divided. Some said that this was a very sophisticated kidnapping, while others claimed that the investigation was poorly conducted. On Christmas Eve, Pope John Paul II received a visit from the Orlandi family, and they had a private conversation. On the 27th, the Pope visited Mehmet Ali Agha in prison and granted him a pardon. Some believed that this was done at the request of the family in the hope that Mehmet might actually be involved and release the girl. But the Pope's pardon was a personal forgiveness. It had no judicial weight. In January, Emanuela's brother Pietro began working at the Vatican Bank, a job in which he served until his retirement. Nothing further came to light, and the case was officially closed and classified as being unsolved in 1997. "25 years after her disappearance, a new lead arrived, which sprung the whole case back to life. In 2008, at the trial of members of the Banda della Magliana Mafia, Sabrina Minardi, a witness and ex-girlfriend of the group leader Enrico De Pedis, stated that Emanuela had been kidnapped, killed, and thrown into a cement mixer in Tor Vaianica, in the commune of Pomezia. She said that this had been done at the request of the American Archbishop Paulinus Marcinkus, then president of the Vatican Bank. It was to be a warning to Pietro, Emanuela's brother, who had discovered some secret documents that he should not have seen. There had already been contact between Pietro and Archbishop Paulinus, as this mafia group deposited money into banks which the Vatican managed. In addition to her testimony, two factors made Enrico's involvement in Emanuela's disappearance possible. The first was that on the day of her disappearance, the traffic officer who had witnessed her interaction with the man in the BMW worked with the police to create an image of the suspect. The image resembled Enrico. The second factor was the criminal's relationship with Monsignor Piero Vergari, director of the music school where Emanuela studied. Enrico died in 1990, and the Monsignor petitioned for the mobster's body to be buried in the Basilica of Sant'Apollinare. The basilica was reserved for members of the clergy only. In 2012, the priest and exorcist Gabriel Amorth, a controversial figure in Christian circles, told the Italian newspaper La Stampa that Emanuela had been kidnapped by members of the Vatican to participate in orgies. He said that he had heard one of the archivists talk about recruiting young girls for sex parties, that the young girl had probably been kidnapped and then murdered to hide the evidence. All the calls that the police and the family had received had been made on the orders of the church itself to further complicate the investigation. This information, even without corroborating evidence, shocked everyone. In 2017, an Italian journalist published a transcript of a 5-page document that was allegedly written by the Cardinal and kept hidden in a Vatican office for many years. The document suggested that the Pope had been involved in Emanuela's disappearance. The veracity of that information has never been proven. In 2018, during renovation work at the Vatican Embassy, 4 labourers discovered bones, both whole and fragmented. The Italian media quickly connected this discovery to Emanuela's case. Pietro believed that the mystery might soon be solved. He also stated that Pope Francis had told him that his sister was in heaven, which led Pietro to suspect that the Pope knew what had happened. However, no new information has since emerged about the case. At the beginning of 2019, Laura Scrow, the family's lawyer, received an anonymous message that said, "If you want to find Emanuela, search where the angel looks." This message included a photo of an angel on a tomb in the Teutonic Cemetery, which is reserved for Catholics of German origin. This led the investigators to visit the cemetery, where they found the side-by-side graves of Princesses Sophie von Hohenlohe, who died in 1836, and Carlotta Frederica, who died in 1840. Laura formally asked the Vatican to open the princesses' tombs. The family received approval on July 11th. Both tombs were opened, and to everyone's surprise, not only was there nothing related to Emanuela, but also the remains of both princesses were missing. It is speculated that the bones were moved during two renovation works, one at the end of the 19th century and another between the 1960s and 70s. The location of the bones is still unknown. During the investigation at the cemetery, the police found a trapdoor into a chamber which contained two ossuaries filled with bones. Experts, in the presence of a coroner appointed by the Orlandi family, dated these bones to be very old, with the most recent being early 18th century. Therefore, any connection between them and either Emanuela or the princesses was ruled out. With these new facts coming to light, Pietro, now approximately 50 years old, made the following statement. "I believe that Pope John Paul II knew exactly what happened to Emanuela, but decided not to say anything so as not to tarnish the image of the Church. About all the theories that have circulated around the world all these years, I don't know what to say. What I do know is that the Vatican's behavior during these 36 years is always considered sacred and everything ends up being secret. A huge lack of collaboration. This just makes me think that Vatican leaders actually know what happened." Emanuela Orlandi has been missing for over 40 years. The case has taken different directions, with numerous theories and clues being raised, considered and debunked. It is possible that more details will eventually come to light with regard to the involvement of the Vatican, an institution that has been shrouded in secrecy throughout its history. The greatest sadness rests with the Orlandi family, who have waited all these years, hoping to finally learn what happened to their Emanuela. If you've made it this far, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to this channel. Also, add your opinion in our comments. Thank you very much. I will see you in the next case.